Hey, it's Grandpa Ron. Today we're getting down and dirty to talk about some RV tires, my tires and your tires. If the thought of flats, blowouts cause your eyes to roll, and you'd rather just call AAA, then this is not the video for you, so I'll see you next time. RV travel is actually 3 times safer than car travel. Most RV accidents are caused by driver error, including speeding. Tires are the biggest cause of vehicle-related accidents. If you want to be better prepared and understand what you can do to maintain your tires to keep them safe and long-lasting, buckle up, because here we go. RV tires are a big deal. The good news is they're pretty well built today. The tire manufacturers use up to a couple hundred different compounds to give you your best use, traction, longevity, wear, and comfort on the road. But there are some things you need to do to make sure you keep them in as best condition as possible. Most of the tires on your motorhomes and buses, Class A's, are pretty good quality, and they can last you up to 10 years as long as you properly maintain them. Tires are expensive, and to get the best life out of them, there are 3 really important things that you can do to get your most out of those tires. First thing, and the most important, is having the proper air pressure in all your tires. The air pressure doesn't have to be exact, but it needs to be within about 10% of the recommended air pressure. All your motorhomes are going to have a label near the driver's door or in the door frame. It's going to tell you the size of the tires and the inflation pressure that you should be running on the front and the back. A lot of times they're the same, but sometimes they're different. Anyway, that's your starting point. Don't go by what's listed on the tires, because those the tire manufacturer puts on for the maximum load and maximum air pressure, but your RV might not be as heavy as actual possible, so there might be a little bit of cushion there. It's normal for tires to slowly lose air. It just leaks out through the side and through the seals and stuff like that. So it's best to check your air pressure in all your tires about every 3 months, and especially before you go on a long trip. Also do a visual check for any lumps, bumps, or cuts or abrasion on your tires. Make sure they look like they're okay. Sometimes road hazards can cause a little bit of problem with them, and you want to find those out before they blow. Be sure to check your tires only when they're cold. If you drive up to a mile, you're probably okay, but anything over a mile, your tires are going to start warming up just from flexing of the rubber, and you won't get an accurate air pressure reading, so make sure you do it before you set out. Actually, tire pressures can increase up to 12 psi more when they're running hot, so that's normal. Don't let the air out, but just to know that in the summer, when it's really warm out, your tires are going to get a little warmer and have a little more pressure in them because of that heat buildup, but it's not a problem. It's best to keep a decent tire gauge in your RV. Just put it in the glove box and practice so you know how to use it. If you have dual wheels, make sure you get a gauge that you can check the pressure in both the inner and the outer wheels. Sometimes the inner ones are really hard to get to, so you're either going to need a special adapter or a valve extender or longer metal type valve stems, which they make it easier, so that's what I'd recommend. But in any case, for my RV, Winnebago recommends 61 psi in all 6 tires. Sometimes you want to put a little bit more in if you have a little more load, maybe a little less if you have a lighter load, but try to maintain all your tires on the same axle within 2 psi. It's important that they are balanced, especially for the dual wheels. Okay, so what's the problem if you put too much pressure in? Some people say you're going to get better gas mileage if you increase your pressure. Of course, you never want to exceed the maximum rating on the tire, but this RV is recommended 61, and the tires are rated for up to 80. But I wouldn't advise that. You're going to have a much harder ride because they're going to be stiffer. And also you'll have less traction, especially gravel, dirt roads, that kind of stuff. Tires not touching the ground with as much surface area, so it can slide a little easier. You want to match the tire pressure with your load. Now, running too little air pressure is probably the biggest problem you can do. What that causes your tire to run a little bit hotter, because it's sitting lower, it's flexing more, and that flexing rubber creates heat. Heat makes your tire a little bit softer. It's going to wear out and possibly lead to some failures sooner than normal. So what is the proper air pressure for your tires? Well, you can start with the manufacturer's rating. For motorhomes, it's always going to be by the driver's door. For travel trailers and fifth wheels, it's going to be up on the driver's side, but on the front of the rig. So you can check there. It'll say what kind of tires you're supposed to use and the pressure that you run them at. Now, the manufacturer does have a recommended tire pressure, and that's at a certain loading or a weight on it. It'll tell you how much stuff you can put into it. But if you depart from that very much, then you might want to adjust the tire pressure to suit. You can always take your rig to a scale and have them measure the front axle and the back axle, or as many axles as you have, and then compare that to the tire rating. Michelin has a tire loading chart, so you can make adjustments if you need to, if you're not running the standard maximum weight in your RV. So that can help you. As a matter of fact, on this rig, I can actually run a little bit lower pressure on the front based on the tire loading that I have. So anyway, give you a little better ride. The next most important thing to getting long life out of your tires, if you can, drive your RV every, say, 3 months and take it out for a 20-minute drive. That'll cause the tires to heat up, and the natural waxes and protectant type compounds in it will work to the surface, and it protects your tires from the sun, UV rays, and ozone. It's also good for your truck engine too, just to make everything lubricated. So 20-minute drive every 3 months, it's good. A couple of things about your front tires is front alignment, balancing, and rotation. If your tires are not wearing evenly, then you might want to check your front end alignment. Even though the vehicle manufacturer sets the alignment when it's new, after you have yours all loaded and set up, it could change a little bit. You might want to have the alignment rechecked, especially before you go on a long trip. As long as your tires are wearing evenly on the front, then your alignment is okay. In my case, the tires looked fine before we went to Alaska. By the time I got back from Alaska, after 9,000 miles, I noticed that the front tires were no longer even. It's starting to wear more on the outside than the middle or the inside. So who knows, maybe I hit a pothole or something like that, or maybe it wasn't right in the setup. But anyway, I had to have it relined. It's possible to rotate your tires. I can't really do it on this rig because all these rims are different. These rims are different than the front ones. They're a stylized aluminum ones, chrome plated. And of course the inside are just plain steel, so it wouldn't look too good if I swapped them around. And I don't want to break the tires off the rim and do that kind of stuff. That's too much. Another problem you might have is if your front tires are out of balance, you start to feel a shaking in the steering wheel, between like 60 and 65 miles an hour, somewhere in there. That is front tire balance. The back tires don't really have to be balanced, but if you're going to swap them to the front later on, you want to have those balanced too. Does tire balance last for the life of the tire? Yeah, sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. Your tires, when they wear, they might not wear evenly. There could be some flat spots in them or different things happen. So the tire balance can change a little bit, but normally you only have to balance them when they're brand new. If you have to store it for a long time over the winter, over 3 months, then it's recommended to clean your tires with soap and water, get any kind of dirt or debris off it. Park it in a cool, dry place if you can. If you can't, that's okay too. But if it's going to be in the sun, get some wheel covers and put them over that. That'll protect your tires from the UV rays. Don't park your tires where they're going to be staying in wet ground, dirt, or grass, or even concrete. You want to put a little barrier under there because the moisture constantly under your tire can cause some corrosion inside your tire. And just before you store your RV, air up the tires to the maximum. In this case, it's 80 pounds. If you don't want to do that, you can use some jack stands, take some weight off the tires. That's fine too. And don't store it anywhere there's electrical equipment or welding, because that electrical stuff creates ozone, and ozone naturally attacks the rubber, so that'll shorten the life of your tires. So you're better off parking it outside in that case. When you're ready to get back on the road, just adjust your air pressure to the proper setting and take off and hit the road. Next is blowouts. Yeah, that's kind of scary. I'm sure you've seen pictures of RVs running off the road and crashing, whatever, because of blowouts. One of the bigger causes of blowouts are road hazards. They go from the police tire strips. You don't want to really run over those. It'll flatten all your tires. To road debris, bottles, glass, and especially potholes. A good-sized pothole can give you a blowout just from the impact and the damage it does to the tire carcass itself. Another possibility is losing a valve stem. In my previous RV, I had these valve stem extenders so I could get to the inner dual wheel. So it was kind of like it screwed on to the valve stem, and it was a rubber hose, and then it was clamped onto the wheel. In the course of driving at one time, I remember hearing this click. I thought I'd hit like a rock on the road or something. But anyway, after driving a couple hundred miles, when I pulled over, I noticed the tire, outside tire, looked kind of low. I was like, what the heck? I looked closely, and that valve extender with that heavy clamp had loosened up, and it ripped the valve stem right off my inner dually. So I drove 200 miles on one tire. The other one was completely flat. But anyway, it didn't hurt the other tire. So the best thing is don't use the valve extenders. They're usually more trouble than they're worth. And of course, another big reason for blowouts are tires that are getting, like, say, over 5 years old and have not been properly maintained. Especially when trailers that are sitting a long time and not being used, that's really tough on the tires. As long as you keep the right air pressure, your tires will last 5 years without doing any other maintenance. Doesn't really matter if you have covers or not. But after that, then you can prolong your life up to 10 years. Continental and Michelin both say their tires can run up to 10 years with proper maintenance, which means covering them in the winter, keeping them clean. Don't put tire dressings on that have any kind of petroleum distillates, alcohols, or silicates. They just interfere with the natural protection in the tire. So you can use Aerospace 303 if you want to, because that'll help give you a little more UV protection. The biggest reason for blowouts in older tires is if they haven't been properly maintained, they're overloaded, they have low tire pressure, and you're driving too fast. Sure killer for the tires. All those things contribute to a weakened tire, one that's more likely to blow out. Special note about your ST tires that are used on trailers. A lot of those are not that good a quality to start with, and a lot of times they're marginally rated for your trailer. If you put all the stuff you want in there, you might be overloading the tires. And as a matter of fact, those ST tires only have to be rated for 65 miles an hour. They have higher rated ones, which is an M rating. If you find an M on it, that's for 81. So if you go over that, you're going to be overloading the tire, and it can lead to a premature blowout. So if you do have a blowout, what do you do about it? Well, for one thing, don't hit the brakes. When you have a blowout, chances are your rig is going to want to pull to one side or the other. What you're supposed to do is hit the gas for a couple of seconds just to get control over the steering. And once you have the control of the steering, then you can slow down and safely find a spot to pull over. It's actually okay to drive on a flat tire for a few hundred yards. It's not going to hurt the tire any more than it already is. If it was a blowout, it's pretty much toast anyway, but you don't want that blowout tire to be ripping up the rest of your RV, the side, or perhaps even destroying the adjacent tire. Yeah, blowouts can be pretty spectacular, but you're actually more likely to pick up a nail or a screw or staple or something like that in the road and cause a leak in your tire that would give you a flat. So as a matter of fact, with this RV, within the first 3 weeks of me having it, I picked up a nail in the inner dually tire on the passenger side, had it plugged, put it back on, and a couple weeks later, I picked up a screw, had to have it plugged again. If you do pick up a nail or a screw on the road, the best thing is just leave it there until you get to a tire repair shop. If you want to, you can plug the tire yourself if you need to. And I've done that before, but some people don't recommend it, don't trust it. They'd rather have the tire patched instead. The patching involves taking the tire off the rim and cleaning it and patching from the inside, so it's probably a little more reliable, but personally I've never had trouble with plugs. So now that I've got it plugged twice, I actually just put it on and use it for a spare. So I put my spare on as the main tire. That's worked fine for me. Here, I'll show you what the plug looks like. Yeah, here's my spare tire with the plug in it. You can see it right there. anyway, it's holding there fine. It's been a couple of years now and no problems. When I was a poor college student, I did everything I could to get a few more miles out of my tires. They were kind of expensive and they only lasted for 20,000 miles back then. One time I had a rear tire that was almost bald. As a matter of fact, there was one spot where there's a couple of the cords showing through. But anyway, I wanted to get a few more miles out of it. And I had a spare, but I was kind of disappointed that only about 50 miles later, the tire blew out. Anyway, I'm a little bit older, a little bit wiser now, so I wouldn't do that again. Most tires have a wear indicator built into the tread. You can see it right here. That's probably at about 2/30 seconds of an inch deep. If you can't find the wear indicator, you can always use a penny or even a quarter to see if you have enough tread left. You put the coin in with the head upside down, and if the tire is covering over the head of Lincoln or Washington, whatever's on the coin, then it's okay, but if it's not covering it, then it's legally worn out. So what does a worn down tire mean? Well, in wet weather or wet roads, American Automotive Association, AAA, they estimate that that'll add 80 feet to your stopping distance. We got a pretty heavy RV anyway, and adding extra stopping distance is not really the best thing. Of course, on dry roads, you get about the same traction, so that's not really a big deal. But when there's water on the road, the tire will tend to float because these grooves aren't as deep and they can't push the water away. The other thing about worn tires is they're much more susceptible to blowouts, picking up nails, any kind of road hazards, pothole damage. I'm not going to be aging out my tires. I'm going to wear them out a long time before that. I got 31,000 miles on them, so I'll probably be replacing them this year. So anyway. If you don't want to be messing around checking your air pressure all the time, then get a TPMS, tire pressure monitor system. Why do you want a TPMS? They're going to run you $300 or $400 probably. Well, for one thing, it'll monitor your tires in real time. If you do pick up a nail or a screw in your tire, those usually are a slow leak type thing. It may take 2 or 3 weeks before your tire gets low enough to actually see it or notice it. But with those monitor systems, you can see if it's starting to fall off a little bit over time, and then you can fix it when it's convenient for you, not on the side of the road. After 2007, all cars are required to have one built in by the manufacturers. But for vehicles over 10,000 pounds gross weight, like this RV, there's no requirement, so they usually don't put them in. Anyway, but you can get an aftermarket unit, and the sensors just screw on here, and you have a little indicator panel that goes up in the front somewhere so you can see, and it'll read out the tire pressure and the temperature for each tire. So that'll keep you from going out and have to check them all the time with your gauge. There's a lot of RV weight ratings, but the axle rating is the most important. It's the GA for axle vehicle rating, GAWR. That tells you how much weight you can have on each axle from the RV. So it applies to the tires, the brakes, the shocks, the springs. They're all designed to work with that maximum rating. If you go over that rating, then you might have a point of failure. Usually it's going to be the tires. They take the most abuse anyway. To know for sure, you can take your rig into a certified scale and have them check the weights to make sure to see what it is. Because all your tires on this axle need to be the same size, same rating, same air pressure. That'll give you most consistent performance, wear, and traction. So what do you do to be prepared for a long RV trip? Well, having a TPMS system will help you a lot in that. Secondly, carry a spare tire. You never know when you might need one through no fault of your own. And third is have a tire pressure gauge. It's pretty simple, and then it's easy to check to verify stuff. Sometimes the spares go flat and you need to pump them up before you can use them. So the fourth thing is bring a little air pump that's strong enough to blow these tires up. So this is needs to be 61 psi for these tires on average. So I got a pump that'll go to maybe 100 psi. So that's good enough. If you have a Class A motorhome, some of those tires are 120 psi, so you need a pump that goes much higher than that, or use an onboard compressor if you happen to have a diesel pusher. The fifth thing is to bring a 2 to 3 foot long pipe, just something you can put over the lug wrench. They give you a little lug wrench like this to get them off. Forget it, it's not going to happen. So get an extension so you can put it over that thing and get a little torque on it. Even if you're not going to change your tire, somebody else that comes along can help you. They might need to use it too. Well, these are some common sense suggestions on how to get the most out of your tires. You really don't want those problems while you're on vacation. Otherwise, if you take care of your tires, they'll take care of you. And this is Grandpa Ron, and I'll see you on the road. Hopefully, not by the side of the road. Anyway.